Good evening and welcome to tonight's meeting of our county commissioners. I want to welcome everyone for coming out. We've got a great crowd in front of us. At this time, I'm going to call Pastor Reverend John Green to the podium to provide our invocation. And before he starts, I'm going to read an announcement here. We need to remember Mr. Marvin Dees, fondly known as Cooter to most people in the county. He passed away on October the 11th. Cooter served the Yancey County Building Inspector for 20 years. He retired from the county in 2012. And then also, shockingly to me, I found out today that Miss Pam Layfield passed away yesterday on October 14th. Ms. Layfield had been serving as the administrative assistant for the Yancey County Cooperative Extension for over 17 years. So please keep these families in your thoughts and prayers as they mourn the loss of their loved ones. Also remember the Cooperative Extension staff that worked with Ms. Layfield. So if you will.
Would you join me in prayer? Our Father and our God, Lord, we do thank you for so many things, Father God. We just thank you that you have given us life itself, every breath we take, Father. And God, also not only do you give us our physical life, God, you offer us a spiritual life if we just believe in your Son, Jesus Christ. Lord, we do lift up those we've heard today. Lord, there's some shocking things, especially with Pam, just such a shock. We just ask you to be with her family, God. But we also ask that tonight that you just be with our elected officials, God, as they make decisions, Lord, some tough decisions, Father, but they make decisions that need to be made. And Father, we ask that as citizens we just accept them in their wisdom, God. But we do ask that they seek your counsel and your wisdom in everything that's said and done tonight, Father. Well, we just pray that they will exalt your name and everything that's said and done in business tonight, Father. And Lord, we thank you again for your Son, Jesus. It's in your name we pray. Amen.
Amen. Amen. Thank you for that, Reverend Green. All right, this time we'll read our ethics statement. In accordance with the State Government Ethics Act, it is the duty of every board member to avoid both conflicts of interest and appearances of conflict. Does any board member have any known conflict of interest or appearance of conflict with respect to any matter coming before the board tonight? If so, please identify the conflict and refrain from any undue participation in the particular matter involved. So are there any conflicts at this time? All right, hearing none, I'll entertain a motion to approve the agenda.
Mr. Chairman.
Yes.
Need to add something to the administrative matters of the agenda. Sheriff Howell in reference to the SRO contract with Yancey County Schools.
All right, so we need to add Sheriff's Office SRO contract under administrative matters 7A.
Mr. Chairman, with that change, I make a motion that we approve the agenda.
Okay, we have a motion by Commissioner Gatewood to approve the agenda.
Second.
Seconded by Commissioner Mims. Any discussion? All in favor say aye. Aye. Thank you. All right, at this time, I'm going to call the Anson All-Star team up, and I'm going to present them with a plaque. All right. The Anson County Board of Commissioners recognizes Anson Athletic Youth Association minors representing Anson County in the Dixie Youth Baseball World Series 2024 AAA North Carolina State Champions, and they represented Anson County as the 2024 AAA World Series. So you have in front of you most of the players and the coaches for the team. I just want to congratulate you, to say thank you, job well done, and keep representing Anson County.
Yeah, congratulations.
Are any parents like to come up and take a picture?
Good job.
Good job.
Thank you. Thank you. Thank you.
All right, moving on to our consent agenda. At this time, I'll entertain if you've had a chance to look over the consent agenda, I'll entertain a motion to approve it.
Mr. Chairman, I make a
Yes.
motion to approve the consent agenda as presented.
Second.
All right, we have a motion by Commissioner Gatewood, second by Commissioner Bricken to approve the consent agenda. Are there any discussions on that? Hearing no discussions, all in favor say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? All right, thank you. All right, up next we have under appearances Mr. Anthony Ratliff and John Green with Anson Rescue Squad.
Good evening, everybody.
Good evening.
All right. So I know you guys have seen my proposal. Also, I submitted a profit and loss statement. I'm assuming you guys got a copy of that. I'm also going to pass around real quick. This is a financial statement for September that was just completed. That way you guys can take a look at that too. I'm actually going to give you the right copy. And if you look on top of this copy right here, you're going to see on top what we do have available at this time as far as funds. Yeah, I just have one copy of that today. Unless you don't have another copy of that, do you? We could share that one.
If we can. She's going to make some copies of that one. If you've got something else to discuss, you can, or you can wait on that. So.
Okay, yeah, we can move on.
Okay.
So, as far as discussing my proposal today, I want to discuss some things with you guys on that. Take some questions, kind of reiterate some things about it, and then I got a little bit more I want to say on the matter. So obviously, we talked to the county manager probably a couple weeks ago, maybe a month ago now, about some financial difficulties we were having at the rescue squad. What we found going forward is that financially we're not going to be able to sustain this current economy unless we have further funding to be able to do so. Obviously we've been under some type of contract like this with the county since 2006. Obviously the rescue squad's been here much longer, since 1958, but since 2006 we've been operating under a contract to provide you guys ambulance services. To start off with, it was more so on what they consider a prime time basis. We had a truck that would run during the busiest time of the week, busiest time of the day, and then somewhere around 2013 we transitioned to a 24/7 operating ambulance. So far this year we've ran about 1,500 calls for the county. On average by year we run about 2,200 or so calls for the county. That includes the ambulance calls itself and then the volunteer rec calls. Currently a lot of people, as far as being in question as to how the rescue squad's able to operate, we get money from two ways. We get money from the county commissioners on the allotment that is provided in that contract, and also with call payments we've taken in. As things change in the economy, puts burdens on us. We're currently seeing some of the lowest paid call volume that we've ever had. We're not getting reimbursements like we used to. Sometimes policies, laws change within the insurance companies, and they're not required to pay the same thing that they are 3, 4, 5 years ago. And when she gets copies of that, I want you guys to take a look of that financial statement for September. What you guys are going to see are a lot of zeros. The zeros, sadly, don't mean that we don't have bills. That means we're not paying bills. At this time, I believe we're months behind on utilities. Obviously, first priority is payroll. We want to pay these people and try to keep them working. But we're not able to actually pay the utilities, the bills, the incidentals that come along with truck maintenance, equipment going down. We have a lot of equipment that is failing. We have ambulances that will not run. The county was able to sell us an ambulance for $1 a while back. We were extremely thankful for that. We've yet to been able to get it on the road because we can't afford the equipment to put in it. We're probably looking at another $100,000 just in equipment. The county did transition to a new radio system a couple years back. We were only able to partially purchase some of that radio equipment. We're still operating off of old equipment that's set to expire and go out. We'll have to replace that. We currently have the radios on a loan that we are struggling to pay off. The billing company that actually collects our billing for us, the same one that the county uses, we're probably $10, $11, $12,000 behind on payments to them. We are basically able to just pay payroll and try to truck along a little bit at the time. So what we are requesting is we're requesting that the county look at paying the payroll for this paid ambulance and letting us take the call payments that we receive and use that for all the incidentals, all the utilities, all the upkeep of the agency itself. The agency also provides the volunteer service. Obviously, we've struggled with that for years, mainly because as we lose equipment, we don't have the money to send people to training, do this or that. We can't provide them anything. It's a civic organization that needs money to thrive, obviously. So we do believe that if the rescue squad was to close, the county is going to end up on the back end having to pay for the staff anyways. We have people that's been here 5, 10, 15, 20, some as many as 40 years working on the ambulance for Anson County. To have to lose them, I believe, would be absolutely horrible. We lose them, the county loses that ambulance, and then they're looking at paying for this payroll all over again. So what we're asking is that you look at these people that have provided these services to the county and consider giving them the chance to step up to be able to make same wages comparable to what the county EMTs and paramedics are making, and to be able to continue working. If not, these people will be out of jobs very soon, and we will lose that talent within the county. We'll lose those local EMTs and paramedics. They will no longer have a place to work. So just to recap, we did have a contract with the county for many years. They provided $24,000 to the rescue squad. A couple years back, we were starting to get in a financial mess. We came to the county commissioners. Graciously, they increased it to $64,000 a year. With that, we've been able to truck along a little bit longer. It's gotten us a little bit further down the road. And so basically what we're asking is that you guys consider paying our payroll, because the payroll will have to be paid one way or the other, whether it's paid for EMS to need more staff, or whether our guys that have been doing it for 10, 15, 20 years keep doing it, and then allow us to take the little call volume we get and use it for the incidentals. Because I believe, according to this profit and loss statement from 2022, we're spending over half of our money just on payroll. That's only paying paramedics and EMTs at $10 and $15 an hour, whereas the county EMTs and paramedics are making $20 to $28 an hour. And I know you guys probably have questions, so if you guys have questions, I'll be glad to take them.
Are there any questions for Mr. Green or Mr. Ratliff at this time?
Mr. Green, I have a question, and that is, first of all, I really appreciate the work that you guys have done over many, many years. How many employees do you have currently?
Well, all of our employees work on part-time. Obviously, we would love to offer them full-time with benefits. We're not able to afford that. So part-time employees, we have a scattered amount of probably, I would say, about 2 dozen. Now, some you'll see working 3-4 days a week. You'll have some that work 1-2 days a month. It just depends. It's all part-time, at-will basis.
And Mr. Green, of that 2 dozen or 24 employees approximately, how many are also Anson County employees? Anson County EMS employees?
He's saying 6, maybe 7. So yeah, that's probably right. We used to have more over the years. Well, yeah, we do have we have a good bit of county employees, I will put it that way, not just EMS. A lot of people, much like myself, I work for the sheriff's office full-time, and this is kind of a part-time career for me. We have 2 dispatchers, we have a deputy sheriff, we have quite a few that work for the county on a full-time basis.
And my next question is, so that everyone understands exactly what you're requesting, what are you asking of us as far as dollars and cents?
So the contractual agreement that we have now is that we have an allotment of $64,000 a year. The use of that money is not specified. I believe probably one drawback is, you guys want to know exactly where this money goes. So we're requesting that we be allotted the same amount of money it would take to pay EMS truck to run 24 hours, 7 days a week with an EMT and a paramedic, which as we did the numbers, let's see, I want to give you the number that we.
Oh.
So that would be $420,480. That's what it would cost to have the EMTs and paramedics make the same pay as our current county EMS employees.
Thank you.
Yes, sir, Mr. Woodburn.
How many Afro-Americans do you have working?
Currently we have, let's see, we have one volunteer, right? We have one volunteer and then we have 2 junior members. Most of the time, I will say, a lot of the junior members, which is basically like a mentorship program, the interest that we get in that is mostly African American. Now, I won't say that we have a lot of African American EMTs and paramedics working right now, but over the years, I've seen a lot more interest in that area coming from African Americans. That's why a lot of our younger ones that are coming up, especially in high school, be African American.
Good.
Mr. Woodburn, you had a question?
Well, yeah, just an observation. I was looking at the, okay, your ask is $420,480. And I was just looking at your total expenses, which are $419,961.97, leaving your net income a negative $1,722.62. And I see that you know, with the addition of the money from your fundraisers, you actually have a positive balance based on this report. So, and I know that the fundraisers, that's not kind of guaranteed, so to speak.
No, sir. And that fundraiser, then this is a profit and loss from 2022. The accounting office was not able to complete 2023 yet. I was really wanting you guys to see that one if possible. That is obviously, as we go further along with fundraisers, we're spending about as much money on a fundraiser as we're making back. It's not really like it used to be where we could have a fundraiser and buy a new truck off of it. And as far as this profit and loss statement goes, what we're basically looking at is eliminating the burden of that payroll. If we eliminate the burden of that payroll, that opens up the door for us to be able to independently purchase more radio equipment. Our stretchers are outdated. The county EMS, they do have the power lift stretchers. We're really eyeballing getting power lift stretchers. Studies show back injuries are the #1 leading cause of early retirement in EMS, and we want to be able to go into that same route that they're going as far as trying to minimize injury. We have a lot of people that get injured on the job. We have a lot of people, have one that's been out now for months with a shoulder injury, most likely probably exacerbated by the work that she does with us. And also, like I said, allowing us to not have to come to the county every time we need a new ambulance or every time we need this money for this or this money for that. That would just strictly be you guys paying the payroll, which, like I said, realistically, if the rescue squad was to close, then you guys are going to need that money to fill in that gap anyways.
That's kind of where I was going with it, just talking about fundraisers, but I just wanted to make sure that everything was looked at closely enough, and provided that the county does this, then that you all will be able to make it from there on.
Yes, sir. And I will say this, we've taken a really hard hit this year. And I'll dive more into this in a minute. Morale is at an all-time low. Our EMTs and paramedics are not in a good place. And a lot of it's because they have some hard feelings. They feel like they kind of been left behind. And, I'll take the blame for some of that. Maybe we should have advocated earlier. But when their counterparts are getting the new equipment, the higher pay, it seems like they're getting a lot of the attention and they're not getting anything. We've had a morale issue. They've been sunken down. So we have had some issues this year, staffing the truck, more issues than I've ever seen. Within the last decade, I can count on a hand the times that we haven't had a truck staffed and ready to go. This year, I couldn't tell you how many times it's happened. But a lot of that, it goes back to morale. We've had some people that have just took jobs in crazy places just to not have to work because they're so upset. We have some working in Tractor Supply and Food Line, you know, and they have the skill as an EMT and paramedic, and they're not using it. My goal is to get these people back and to, you know, show them they're appreciated, that the county appreciates them, and, you know, remind them that they are needed, you know, they're needed in this county.
Okay, thank you, thank you.
I have a question.
Mhm.
Yes, sir.
I know you said 6 to 7 employees that's employed with the county. What is the total number? What are the dispatchers, deputies, or whatever? What is the total number of county employees?
Yeah, let's see. I'm gonna solidly answer with 6, that I know of, is 6 employees. Like I said, that would include the dispatchers, the sheriff's office employees, which dispatchers being sheriff's office employees.
Okay.
One thing I want to point out to the board, and I just want to make the board aware that when we talk about the funding for the payroll, in other words, you're asking for $420,000 for your payroll. You're exactly right. That burden will fall back on the county if, for instance, your ambulance is not in service. We will have to provide that same staffing level on our ambulance. I want to caution the board, the only thing that would be different is when our ambulance transports a patient, we bill and we would collect that money back. So we're not technically going to be on the hook for the $420,000. And so I just wanted to clarify that for the, you know, obviously the commissioners who are not inside the EMS agency. I'm sorry, go ahead.
No, please.
And you said you responded to 2,200 calls last year?
Yeah, approximately year
Roughly.
to year, it's 2,200
Okay,
calls. Yes,
so
sir.
We're at 1,700 now.
1,700,
But,
okay.
but what I will say, as far as that's a very raw number. Well, we're still going to have to step in with some of our money and cover. That doesn't account for when you have 2 paramedics working that day. Sometimes you have 2 paramedics. That does not account for the benefits packages you have to provide, because we're still going to be employing them part-time, whereas you guys would be seeking to employ them full-time, I'm assuming, so you guys know that ambulance is going to be there.
Yeah. The 420,000. I did the numbers, and that's 8,760 hours a year for each employee, 1 paramedic, 1 EMT.
Mm-hmm.
That comes up to the $420,000. Obviously, there's some benefits on top of that, payroll taxes, things like that would have to be paid. I just wanted to make the board aware that we're not going to get any of that back. We would get some of our own money back if we employed those people within EMS. But was all I was trying to clarify there. So, but I do think the numbers would be a little more than the 420,000 yearly.
And Mr. Chairman,
Yes.
even if it's $420,000, that is a significant amount of money. In fact, it represents 1% of our general fund budget for fiscal year 24 and 25.
Mhm.
And I don't know where we would get $420,000 from, because right now we don't know exactly how much we have in our fund balance. And $420,000 would wipe out our contingency completely. So I want to see the numbers of where we get those funds from.
Yes, sir. I agree with you. But that is a large chunk of our of our operating revenue right there.
Mr. Green, what happens if this recommendation is not approved by the board?
Basically, at this point, we're running on fumes until we can't run any longer. Like I said, I mean, when I was running the numbers today, just raw numbers, just trying to figure out, you know, what have we done for the county. I mean, we've saved the county probably a couple $1 million within the last 10 years, because we've been basically paying this payroll, which, you know, we gladly took on. I believe at the time when this all started, the economy was a little bit different. It's changed now. Insurance companies are not the same way they once were. Used to, you could run billing out of the rescue squad. You could bill people from the rescue squad and get paid. There's a lot more hoops to jump through nowadays to actually get call payments back. But just taking that $24,000 a year, but having to still expend $250,000 plus a year on payroll, you know, that saved the county a pretty good amount of change.
Thank you.
And like I said, I want to make sure I answer your question clearly. I would give an approximation that we probably would not make it to the end of the year.
All right, thank you. That's great.
And I guess I want to clarify that as well. I'm asking, if you were not, when you say I wouldn't make it to the end of the year, you would not be able to fulfill your contract duties of a truck 24 hours a day, 7 days a week, correct?
Yes, sir. I don't think we'd be able to do that through the end of the year at the rate that we're going.
And so that means, and I'm talking to the board here, that our county staff would have to fill in that gap or that need, which, if I'm not wrong, they're doing some of that now. When you said you were unable to provide a truck, we're having to already fill in for that. So it's.
And I will say, I believe, once again, I believe that goes back to morale.
Yep.
In the last 10 years, we've never had this problem. A lot of people would be surprised to think you have all these part-time people and you're able to pretty much staff it 24/7, 365 days a year. But when it kind of feels like there was a split in the tracks and, you know, we stayed behind, that seriously affected morale.
Yes, sir, Mr. Woodward.
Mr. Chairman, I was going to kind of piggyback on what Commissioner Gatewood said. My thinking was, because, you know, as important as the rescue squad is to the citizens of Anson County, I would like for us to be able to approve this, but right now I don't know if we have enough information from the county standpoint. So I was going to ask the county manager to just kind of look into it, look at some different ways that it might be funded, and come back to the board at our next meeting, and we can have a little bit further about it.
I can definitely do that. The quick answer is that the only savings account you have as a county is for fund balance. And as Commissioner Gatewood was saying, we should be able to get our annual audit completed for the first time in a long time on time by October 31. The only caveat there is, go ahead and let tell you up front, is I've got an email from our CPA firm that does the audits, and the state of North Carolina now is holding us up because they can't get everything out that they need to the auditors around the state. So every audit that every county and town and city has in the state now is being held up because of the state of North Carolina. They're the ones who require us to be on time by October 31, which we were going to do. So now we could still make it if they turn loose everything within the next few days, because the auditor assures me that they were going to meet that deadline. So I could probably give you a rough idea as to what your fund balance was a year at the end of the last fiscal year, but that doesn't mean that that's what it is today.
I understand, and I guess you and I need to have a little bit further discussion. I'm thinking about sources of funding other than county, grants and that type of thing, which I know you can't answer that right now because
right. No, there's no way to answer that now, because one, you have to put the grant together, obviously, as you know, and then you have to wait on the grantors to decide when they're going to fund.
Right.
I will answer, and I'm not sure where Anson is at in their grant. Representative Brody allotted $50,000 for each department and rescue. Right. The county has those funds. It has been sent out to all departments. We're just waiting for those departments to send their form back. Right. So I don't know where rescue's at in that process, but that is some money that could be available.
And I did submit that form, and it was rejected and returned back to us. We told them we needed it for certain costs that were going on at the time, bills, payroll, whatever we could use it for. And it was rejected, and we were told that it had to be done for a new project. You might can provide more insight on that. So we actually did submit it back for a new power lift stretcher, which obviously is going to be more than $50,000. That stretcher itself is probably in the 60s, I believe. But we're still going to be out of the pocket about $10,000.
I would have to verify with Ms. Berry, our finance officer, but I think the money could be used for salaries. So if we could get that $50,000 for some salaries, and I'm saying that'd kick the can down the road to the end of the year at least, to allow us a little more time to see where we can come up with some more money. But I don't know that to be a fact, but I can discuss with her and the state if that's an option, if that would help rescue out.
Yeah, that, I mean, anything would help at this
So,
point.
yeah.
Yeah.
And I do know that I speak with Mr. Brody pretty frequently, trying to get all we can get for all of the volunteer fire departments and rescue squad included. I know in the past 2 years there's been $85,000 to each department that rescue was included on, I believe. But I know the 50 and I think the 35 as well. I think.
Well, the
2
first
years
year
ago.
he did, excuse me, the first year Mr. Brody didn't recognize y'all as one of our departments because you're not part of the county, so we did have to clarify with him on that. So,
So I'm trying to reach out to Ms. Woodward's point. I'm trying to reach out and find some money for all of the departments.
right.
But if that would help, I think we can, facilitate that to get you to the end of the year at least,
Exactly.
But to Mr. Woodward's point, if you'll research some ways that we can come up with some funds, we can discuss this at a later meeting.
Definitely. I'll meet with our finance director tomorrow, and we'll see what we can come up with.
Okay. So.
And I think we really need to do a deep dive in funding outside of the county. And I'm not talking about just around, I'm talking about wherever, state or federal.
And one of
If
the
that's possible.
places might be Central Iowa Council look up, because they do a lot of grant applications.
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
those types of things.
Does Answer Rescue still hold a nonprofit status, or where are you at on that?
No, we're still waiting on the financial statements so that we can apply for that.
Okay. All right. So.
I will say we've had a very difficult time with getting accounting on board and just finding someone that actually can do that application properly and complete it the way it's meant to be completed. Those things obviously are you mess up one little thing and you're rejected and you're set back all the way to the beginning. So super tedious. I mean, we're going on years working on getting that back.
I can attest to that. We serve on another board that goes through the same thing, and they had a hard time getting their status reinstated. So,
since we just worked with Central Iowa on the emergency management plan and have that complete, I wonder if this could kind of hinge off of some of the findings there with the people that helped us with. It's kind of a similar concept.
It's possible that can happen, but I don't know until I look at it, because every grant is different. You have to realize that. It's like, we've been very fortunate the last couple of years to get some very good grants for our utility system, but that's utilities. That's not EMS or emergency management or rescue, and that's the problem, because it's not as simple as just writing a grant and sending off a piece of paper.
No.
I mean, I started out of grad school 30 years ago and changed writing grants, and I'm not even sure if we could use a CDBG, Community Development Block Grant, through HUD, because that's normally for housing and those types of things.
Golden Leaf. You got 4 participants.
I would check the Golden Leaf. The last round that they had was not something that the rescue squad or EMS would have qualified for. They were looking at agriculture, they were looking at education, and they were looking at economic development. And so that was, like I said, the last round, and we just completed submitting applications last month. But I will look at, there's things out there, we'll just have to look.
Okay. Any other questions? Answer Rescue Squad.
In other funds, they collect from. In other funds, they collect from.
Mr. Chairman.
Yes.
I'll raise this point again. I raise it every time Answer Rescue Squad comes before the board, and that is, given the dire situation that Answer Rescue is in, and given the fact that we're not in a position to write a check for $402,000 in this fiscal year, is it time for us to seriously consider combining the forces of Answer Rescue Squad and Anson EMS?
I definitely think we can entertain that, but I think that relies that solely is in their hands. I mean, I can't tell them what they're going to do. That's if they want to entertain that, then we can have that discussion.
I will say this. I know that we brought this up last time, and I remember saying it was a very delicate situation. After I said that, I'm just going to be honest. It's not about me, him, or whoever runs EMS. At the end of the day, it's about the people that are working on these ambulances, the ones that are on the ground answering the calls, and if they're not willing to budge and do it, it's not going to happen. And I mean, it can go back to many different things. I mean, some people are just happy with where they are. Like I said, we have a lot of people now that are working for $10 an hour, or $15 an hour, when they can go make $20 or $28 an hour. They're just truly happy where they are. The rescue squad's got a deep history in Anson County. It's been here since 1958. You know, people's grandmas, grandpas, great-grandpas, great-grandmas. I mean, they've had this stock in this rescue squad for so many years, and there are certain things you'll just never be able to undo. And I believe this might be one of them. As many years and many times as we've talked about it, you know, I would like to see the best, most cohesive relationship and working relationship that's possible. And you know, but I just don't believe you're going to be able to budge people to transition from one thing when they really want to stay in the other. And like I said, I mean, it's local talent. You know, EMTs and paramedics they're getting harder to come by. It's not a field a lot of people want to go into. It's something that, you know, we've begun to struggle with over the years. And the ones we have that have a tenure that have really, you know, they've crafted themselves to be these great EMTs and paramedics within the community. I want to make sure that at all costs they stay, because, like I said, you cannot replace human connection. You can't replace that. You can't replace these EMTs and paramedics that are, you know, been answering calls for 10, 15 years, and they know these people. They know the streets. They know everybody here. You know, they know all the resources. So I really don't want to go down a road that's going to cause people to leave us. So that's kind of my take on it.
How many people do you have employed?
Well, we have volunteers and employees, and then we have a paid volunteer hybrid situation. I would probably say we have 15, 16 paid volunteer hybrid type employees. We have a couple dozen volunteers and strictly paid employees that only work as a paid employee. We think we have 5.
All right, are there any other questions for rescue at this time?
We're going to table it.
So what's the board's pleasure in taking action tonight?
I will make the motion that we have the county manager and finance look further into this and try to put together some funding options that we can take a look at. I mean,
I second it.
So I definitely, like I said earlier, and this is just for discussion, you would like to see them be able to continue and understanding the situation the county's in right now as far as just forking up $400,000+. But I think there's other funding that may be available if we just figure out how to go after it. And this is funding outside of the county, outside of Anson County as far as that's concerned, somewhere within the state.
We have more than your operation in ambulance business. What about Ansonville, Burnsville? Are you part of that?
No, sir. Those operate as fire departments now. They also operate as in rescue operations, depending on what their availability or what their capacity is. Burnsville does have an ambulance that runs off a volunteer basis. So when they get a call in that area, anybody that's able to volunteer and respond, they respond to that area. Great people. They respond to that area. They hop on that ambulance and they take care of the Burnsville area.
All right, so at this time we have a motion by Commissioner Woodburn, a second by Commissioner Little Reed for our county manager and finance officer to research some other funding opportunities for Anson Rescue. Is there any discussion on that? Hearing none, all in favor say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? All right, thank you.
Thank you,
Tim.
Thank you for your time.
All right. All right, Madam Clerk, you advised there was no public addresses?
That's right. No
Okay, so nobody signed up for that. So we're going to move on to our appointments. We have, I guess there's 5 appointments. Let's see, 1, 2, 3, 4 appointments to make to the library board. You have them in your packets there, so I'm just going to summarize it. So we need a motion to reappoint Miss Judith Curtis, and then to appoint Dr. Sharon Little, Winnie Bennett, and Michael McLeod to serve on the Library Board of Trustees.
So moved.
All right, so we have a motion by Commissioner Smith, second by Commissioner Little Reed, to make those, want to reappoint Ms. Judith Curtis and to appoint Dr. Sharon Little, Wendy Bennett, and Michael McLeod to the Library Board. Is there any discussion on that? All right, hearing none, all in favor say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Thank you. All right, moving on down, administrative matters, SRO contract.
Good evening.
Evening.
Good evening.
Good to see all y'all. We have been in contact with the Board of Education, or the Superintendent of Schools, and that the city was unable to fulfill the duties of having the SROs at the high school or the interior schools in the town of Wadesboro, and they've asked us to enter into a contract to have 2 SROs added to what we already have. They're going to fund that at $148,000. $148,495 for the salaries and the stuff that goes along with the contract, equal to the other SROs. The thing that we would have to ask for extra funding now would be for equipment, walkie-talkies, clothing, and obviously a gun and bulletproof vests, just necessities that every deputy would have to have. And for 2 positions total, that would be $24,000. They will be issued a spare car, or a car that when we purchase vehicles this year, they will get a used car that someone else would be getting a new car to replace. So we won't have to purchase a car for them at this time.
So that's just a one-time, 24,000?
Yes. Yes, ma'am.
How many people?
You said 2, didn't you?
2.
Did you say 2 people?
Yes.
Okay.
SRO. Oh, what that stand for?
School Resource Officer. They're out at and these primary duties will be at the high school. We have, since the city could not fulfill that position, we've had a deputy out there now that we're paying to be out there that's not under contract with the school to be there. We're just supplying that officer there to have law enforcement on the scene, and we'll take another person and put out there if these 2 positions are added.
You said the school is going to fund the majority of that at $148,000 and $495?
That's what the finance officer came up with, what their portion would be for the salary and the benefits of those 2 officers, okay. And that's what the school is going to be in a contract for.
Okay.
I think we definitely want to keep the kids safe. At this time, if it's not too early, I'd like to make a motion to approve that.
Second.
All right, so this time we have a motion by Commissioner Bricken, second by Commissioner Woodburn and Commissioner Gatewood, to fund the $24,000 in gear for the 2 SRO officers. Any further discussion on that?
Just one question, Mr. Chairman,
yes.
if I may. How many school resource officers do we have in the entirety of the county? Sheriff? Sorry, I didn't mean to put you on the spot.
You can take your shoes off if you need to.
We don't have that many. I wish I could take my shoes off to count those. We have 1 at the junior high, 1 that splits duties between Ansonville and Peacham-Polkton, and 1 that is splits duties between Lysville and the Morven School.
In the community college.
And we have 1 at the community college as well. I'm sorry.
All right.
So that would be 4 full-time at
4
before this request.
Okay. Thank you.
All right. Any other discussion on that? All right. Hearing none, all in favor say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Thank you. Okay, moving on to our manager's report.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. The first item I have is some policies that we need to get the board to approve. They're basically dealing with how we spent the ARPA money. You probably recall you've already adopted several of them. But this deals, just details with what qualifies, what does not qualify.
So just to clarify, this money has already been spent. We're just kind of cleaning up the
Right.
policies.
We do have a little bit of ARPA money left, not a lot. Of course, as you know, a lot of it went toward revenue replacement, if you will, which was probably the easiest thing to do with the least amount of burden on the different department heads as well as the finance department to keep the records.
Okay.
Mr. Chairman.
Yes.
Mr. County Manager, you said you have a little bit to me and a little bit to you. It could be different. How much approximately do we have left over?
I would say just a few $1,000.
All right, thank you.
And the reason I said a little bit was because we actually received the $4.5 million.
Now, those funds need to be committed by the end of this calendar year, is that correct?
And they are.
And they are. All right, thank you.
And I think the other piece of that is they've got to be, correct me if I'm wrong, spent by the end of 26. Is that correct?
It's either 25 or 26, December 31.
Yeah. I'm thinking it might be 26.
I think it's 26. I think is where I read too. All right. So, what's the board's pleasure on the ARPA policy?
So moved.
Have a motion to approve that?
So moved.
I have a motion by Commissioner Mims, second by Commissioner Little Reed to approve the policies as outlined in our packet. Any discussion on that? All right. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Thank you.
The next item, Mr. Chairman, if you're ready, is the employees of the quarter. These are employees that are recognized by their fellow employees, and we have 4. We have Whitney Dunlap from the extension, that's 4H if you will. Monique Freeney, DSS, Colton, who's from EMS, and then last but not least is a department head, and we have very few of those from time to time. We don't encourage it, but your finance director, Miss Berry, was nominated and received it. And so those are the 4 that would be employees of the quarter. That's just a report. You don't have to take any action.
Okay. Well, I want to commend them, those employees, on that recognition, and appreciate the hard work they do for the county and for the citizens.
And they all deserve it. They've worked very hard.
Yes.
The next item that I have on there is the Sheriff's Office Town of Waitsboro Agreement, and this is Sheriff touched on it just briefly in his presentation on the SROs, or School Resource Officers. This is the contract that we have discussed previously with the town in terms of they're short on personnel to fulfill their ranks, if you will, in terms of the police officers, and so the law enforcement sheriffs agreed to it. The contract was worked out between the sheriff's office and the police department of the town of Waitsboro, and so it just needs and it's already been pre-audited by the finance director for the town and also our finance director, and so it's ready for your approval. And it's also been signed by both the finance officer of the town, audited and signed by our finance director, as well as the town manager, Wiley Ross.
Move that it be approved.
Okay. All right. We have a motion by Mr. Smith to approve it. Do we have a second? Second by Commissioner Little Reed. And this is just to clarify that the contract has been approved by the town. The county's just affirming that we're going to do what we said we would do. Has been pre-audited. For the citizens, this contract is why you will see some Anson County Sheriff's deputies patrolling the streets of Wadesboro in town. So at this time, is there any other discussion on the contract?
I guess we're going to do it 1 month at a time. I thought when we originally talked about it, it was for 90 days, but it's a month at a time.
Yeah, this contract's good for 30 days, but can be renewed.
Right. Okay. Thank you.
All right. Any other discussion? Hearing none, all in favor say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Thank you.
Mr. Chairman, if it be the board's pleasure, I do have one other item I'd like to add. This came up within the last I had a meeting with Miss Jackson, who's here today. And if I can get you to recognize her, if she wants to speak beyond what I'm going to say, but we have been asked to supply support through a call center operation, and it's a DSNAP program. This is with our DSS employees, Department of Social Services, and this is mainly to provide support, if you will, for the mountain and the western North Carolina counties that were hit very hard by Hurricane Helene. I initially thought that our employees would have to go to the mountains, but not. They're going to be able to work from here. The gist of it is that the call center will operate from 9 a.m. to 4 p.m. Mondays through Thursday, but then there's also going to be a 3-hour window on Saturdays from 9 to 12, and what could actually extend those hours either Monday through Thursday or on a Saturday is if you've got callers that are in a queue, if you will, that are like on call waiting, then those employees will continue to work until all of those are taken care of. And like I said, this is to provide relief to the mountain and the western North Carolina counties.
Okay. Ms. Jackson, do you have anything to add to that?
The only thing that I would add to that was primarily the conversation was in reference to this being a FEMA project, so there possibly could not be reimbursement to the county for the overtime on Saturdays and any overtime that might occur during the week. It'll primarily be specific to the income maintenance caseworkers, which is about 20 of them. So the request was for comp time or overtime, which in the past for disaster, when we've done DSNAP locally, employees have been allowed to either do comp time or overtime. So
Okay.
just knowing upfront that the reimbursement may only be 50% and not 100% for the county.
I understand. So, well, it's just my sole opinion, but I think that's a small price that we can chip in to help out our neighbors in the western part of the state. So I'm all in favor of it. So I don't know if you need a motion on that or.
We do.
Okay. So we have a motion by Commissioner Woodburn, second by Commissioner Gatewood, that our DSS staff step in and support that end of the state. Any other discussion on that item? Hearing none, all in favor say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed?
Thank you.
Thank you.
And I appreciate that. To me, this is another
All we
form.
can send up there is not enough.
You're correct, sir.
To me, this is another form of mutual aid that I know a lot of you are familiar with relative to EMS and also, fire services and so forth for emergency management. That's all I had, unless any commissioner has a question.
All right, at this time, any questions for the manager? All right. As far as chairman's report, I have nothing to report on as of now, so we'll move on to commissioner concerns. Are there any concerns or comments?
I don't have a concern, it's just a flyer. The town of Lylesville is hosting its annual Spooktacular Trunk or Treat Halloween event on Tuesday, October the 29th, beginning at 6 p.m. at Hatchet Park, and we invite everyone to come out.
Okay. Thank you for that. So, any other announcements, concerns?
The whole county is participating in sending help to Asheville, is that right?
Yeah, there are multiple organizations from Anson County that have been to our sheriff's department, local fire, rescue. Obviously, our DSS staff's going to start supporting it. So yes, they're
Actually, emergency management, also the health department as well.
So yes, so we have multiple people serving up there.
Thank you.
Local churches too.
Yep. All right. Anything else?
One more thing, the sheriff's office is going to do a trunk or treat on Halloween night, starting at 6 o'clock, I think it is.
Okay.
5:30.
5:30 at the sheriff's department.
Yes, sir.
Okay. All right. Any other?
You giving out trick and treats up there?
Yes, sir. Yes, sir.
Okay.
Make sure you go by and get some.
Yeah, truckload of.
All right. Anything else? Hearing none, I'll entertain a motion. I don't think there's a need for closed session tonight.
One thing we may want to mention, our next meeting is actually going to be on a Monday instead of Tuesday because of Election Day, so it may be good to let y'all know that.
I'm glad you let me know that because I had forgot. So.
Thank you. I'll just add this. I attended the North Carolina Association of County Commissioners Board of Directors meeting this past Friday and Saturday, and we went through the legislative goals and trimmed them down some. They still got quite a few. This will be presented in November to the legislative goals committee, and we'll see then how many of them, carries on and become active items for the association. So.
Okay. Thank you for that. Thank you for your service to the association.
Thanks.
Any other business? All right. Hearing none, I'll entertain a motion to adjourn.
Motion to adjourn. Second.
Motion by Commissioner Smith, second by Commissioner Woodburn. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Thank you.
Ready. All right.